pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm gonna keep the mic down a little bit until after the pledge of allegiance, Jesse. All right, let's move on. If the minutes can reflect the roll call of various trustees and staff, let's move on to item 3. Entertain a motion for the approval of the 2-1 village board meeting minutes and the file the 12-8 public safety committee, the 1-11 Board of Public Works, 1-18 finance committee meeting minutes as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Motion is second, and all those comments, questions, clarifications on the minutes.
I have,
Tom had his hand, I'll let him go.
oh, sorry. I think in addition.
Okay.
Where trustee Luff asked about
I'm sorry, could you, which set of meeting minutes?
the last village board meeting,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
no, that's okay. Just want to make sure I'm following.
Trustee Luff asked you, Jesse, about review. And you're gonna do it's over there on the last page, I think, middle of the page, trustee Luff required about process of the annual review.
Yeah.
See that there? I think she also asked you, President Brinkwell, about the review for our administrator. And that was a work in progress, but I think we should add that to the minutes.
Certainly.
That happened. Okay, Tom? Oh, I'm sorry, anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, this is February 1st village board meeting minutes, page 2. Right in the middle of the page where President Brunkwell reminded the board that none of this was approved without village board, community development authority, and public works approval. Just a comment, I believe you probably did say that, but there was not any public works approval that I recall. It never went to Board of Public Works. And if it had been, I would have probably favored and voted for the motion, because I did have a chance to follow up and in terms of the plans for the sewer improvements at 1505, and the action taken by the board was certainly correct.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? Great, motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Anybody in the audience, non-agenda items? Nope. Let's move on to item 5. We do have a slot to fill on the architectural review board. We have an application, and this person is an architect. Could be a good fit for the ARB. So I entertain a motion to approve this appointment.
I make a motion to approve Tom Lawrence.
So we'll just take that.
I'll second.
Second, motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. Let's move on to resolutions, ordinance, action items. Item A is a part of the finance committee. Item 1 is a motion to recommend the village board approve the updated village of Grafton classification structure with the library positions included.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Okay, a motion is second. I think that this also wanted to include some information on the hourly, so before we take the vote, this could probably have some questions that you
Certainly.
were filling in based on the questions that came up last time.
Yes, on the dais this evening for the village board is the salary structure that does include the hourly rate. Or excuse me, all of the pay grades now include the hourly rate calculations, even those pay grades starting at 14 and higher, which are all of our salaried positions. Those are broken down at an hourly rate in accord with the request of the finance committee. And also the classification structure does still maintain the library positions, again, as requested by the finance committee. Otherwise, this is the result of that 3% shift based upon that market data.
Okay, so this was a discussion point previously, and then finance, any further comments, questions in this item? Yes, Lisa.
Yeah, I have a question, Jesse. So,
there's 5 categories in each pay grade. Is that what we had before?
Yes,
Okay.
yep,
And so are the amounts per hour different than what we had before? At
yes.
3%?
All of the numbers here are shifted by that 3%.
So in essence, everybody's getting a 3% raise.
No,
No.
there are no salary adjustments for individual employees. It is just the listing of what the pay grades are that changed.
And I think that was a question I asked you, if there's anybody that was gonna fall below pay grade minimum, and you said no.
Nope.
Other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item 2 is a motion to recommend the village board approve the updated Grafton Police Department organizational change chart and related job description with the requested changes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Chief, anything you wish to add?
No, we did just so you all know that we updated the organizational chart to reflect the changes that were made or requested through the finance committee. So the new organizational chart is in front of you there and with the relationships as they are.
Okay, Jesse, anything you want to add to it?
Exactly that. As the chief pointed out, the dashed lines were installed into the organization chart, showing that the administrative assistants do not carry any supervisory oversight. They are strictly in relation to the specific areas on the organizational chart. Otherwise, this is as presented.
Okay, a lot of discussion on finance. Any questions from the board? Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any- That motion passes. Let's move on to item B, report of the Board of Public Works. Item 1 is a motion to accept TRC's environmental 2020 groundwater monitoring and progress report with the submission of requesting annual sampling be approved.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Amber, anything you wish to add on this?
Yeah, I have some updates based on the discussion at Board of Public Works last week. So TRC is updating the annual report to request annual monitoring of our well samples. So we will request that and have some further discussions with the DNR to see if that is approved. And then there was some discussion about closure of the site and, how we get to where we are today to a point where we can close and kind of stop monitoring this site. So some follow-up from TRC is we would have to do what they call a monitored natural attenuation report. So it's an additional report in excess of what we're currently doing. And it would have to do some different analyticals to show kind of what the time frame would be that the things that we're monitoring, what the time frame would be before those would naturally kind of disappear. And whether the DNR would accept that or not is based on whether it appears those contaminants would disappear in a reasonable amount of time, which there is not a definition from the DNR on what a reasonable amount of time is. So if that's something we would like the TRC to work on now that they have some of their new data. They did say they started kind of laying the groundwork for that in this year's annual report, adding some things in there that haven't been in previous reports. So they are kind of starting to lay that groundwork. They recommend we kind of see how the DNR reacts to this year's annual report, see how they respond to closing out the vapor issue. And if that all goes positive, maybe we look at moving forward with that. But they did bring up another point that the DNR's kind of new focus is with per and polyfluorinated alkyl substances, preferably known as PFAS. And they are putting together new kind of recommendations that if you look to close a site, they may ask us to do additional testing with PFAS, which would be extremely expensive. So we may want to tread lightly and see how that discussion goes before we ask to close it, or we might be opening kind of a new can of worms, if that makes sense.
Any questions for Amber?
Sure. So TRC will at some point, hopefully in the future, advise us when they think it makes sense
Yes,
to request closure.
yes, based on our numbers, based on how the DNR is approaching other sites that are a reasonable time frame and kind of where that PFAS requirements go, they'll definitely keep track of it and let us know when there's a good time to request.
Is there Gary asked, and I don't want to put you on the stand. Do we have anything left in environmental remediation funds? Are those gone?
Very little, if any. I believe it is to the point of starting to do budget transfers into that fund. So needless to say, we are very pleased with how aggressive this new engineering firm is in moving us towards trying to close this chapter. We understand it is a very important issue and a historical issue that we're dealing with, especially when working under state guidelines and rules. But we truly appreciate the efforts of this new engineering firm we brought on board about 18 months ago, 2 years ago now, Amber?
About a year ago.
About a year ago. So that is greatly appreciated, and we are slowly making progress.
Any other comments? Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 2 is a motion to set the following 2021 fees as listed.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Again, this looks like it follows some guidelines that are provided. There were some questions regarding the I-43 lift station. Hopefully, some of those answered.
I'm satisfied with the action to be taken this evening. In follow-up, just speaking with Amber before the meeting, there may be still some cleanup of existing language in the village code that seems to conflict, but I think we're getting to the bottom of it, and that will be action for a future date. But for tonight, I think we're good. Other than I would comment that the 3 lift stations, those fees should include the per acre designation as well in our motion.
Amber,
Yes,
how do we determine, it says it's 1.9 increase from 20? How do you determine what percent you're going to increase them?
so that is per our village ordinance.
Okay.
It says that we increase it per the engineering news record 20 city index, cost index increase for the prior year. So ENR's index for 2020 was 1.9.
So that can change every year. It's not always 1.9.
Every year it's slightly different.
Okay, thank you.
Lift station charges, that's per acre?
Correct.
Okay, so that's what you want to add in?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, fair enough. We can just put that in the minutes and then add that. Okay. All right, motion and second, final comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Let's move on to item 3. That's a motion to authorize the purchase of a new 2021 Ford F-150 truck and a new 2021 F-250 truck from Ernie Von Schlater, a random weight for a net price of $38,718.80, and also purchase another utility body, Tommy liftgate, and a fuel transfer tank and pump from Badger Truck of Milwaukee in the amount of $22,110 for a total price of $60,828.80 be approved.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. How did it come out compared to budget?
The trucks are under budget with the additional equipment, which we are asking for the mechanic at the utility to use. We are about, I want to say $2,000 over budget, but we were well under budget with our other capital equipment purchases, so we will use that to cover it.
Comments, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any- That motion passes. Let's move on to item 7, Department and Officers Reports. Jesse, you want to kick it off?
Absolutely. Park and Recreation Director Fallon and I have kicked off a series of meetings. I'm meeting with her on a much more regular basis because of really kicking off and gearing up for planning for the Grafton Aquatic Center. She has been in direct contact with Cedarburg and Port Washington on looking to establish a cohesive set of guidelines with regards to COVID-19 precautions, but having a sense of consistency as we do have the Super Pass program where people can buy that and visit the different pools in the area. We want to start planning as for a full opening, obviously with appropriate measures being taken. I am in essence inserting myself into this process this year due to Director Fallon's planned leave. So with that, I am learning a lot, more than I ever wanted to know about pool operations, and I look forward to learning more. But we're off to a very good start. We have begun advertising for seasonal positions, and we'll look to basically plan accordingly for a full opening, unless obviously situations change out in the world with regards to the pandemic. However, we want to be in a position to be able to utilize one of the best assets of our community come warm weather. So that planning process has started. Speaking of COVID-related items, there is a possibility of a second round of federal stimulus funds for municipalities. This is something staff is monitoring very closely, as we understand at the federal level, in the committee level at the federal legislation. There is an aid package that is being considered, which would be pretty significant opportunity for the village to be able to leverage if in fact it does progress to full legislation. So something we are watching and would look to utilize accordingly. Last but not least, kind of a COVID-related update here. Village protocols have been updated in accord with new CDC guidance with regards to as the vaccinations roll out and different classifications of folks are vaccinated. That does impact whether or not such things as quarantine are required for those individuals. So we're making sure that our protocols here for our workforce match the CDC guidelines, which we generally speaking follow very, very closely. That said, as individuals are vaccinated and we're seeing, I guess, improvement, if you will, with the trends. Going back to my meetings with Park and Recreation, such things as facility rentals, public tours of village facilities, programming, the use of Zoom meetings will be reviewed, will be under ongoing review as we progress through the year. Again, as vaccinations become more widely available and the statistics and the outcome out in the world adjust to, hopefully, as things improve, long and short. So a lot of things going on with regards to kind of monitoring the ongoing COVID issue and how it impacts village operations here in Grafton. So that's been quite a bit of my efforts as of late. So there's my report.
All right, thank you. Amber, so we've had a little bit of snow last couple week or so. How are things going? So overtime, crew.
We've had a lot of overtime. I mean, there's just no way around it. These storms, kind of like last year, seem to hit in the evenings and on the weekends. And, a lot of it is not able to be addressed during normal hours. So we do have a lot of overtime. I think we had close to 40 hours of overtime in the last pay period. So for 2 weeks, an average of about 40 hours per crew person for plowing and salting operations. But otherwise, things are going good. Our salt dome was extremely full at the beginning of this season. So while it does have a pretty good dent in it, we do still have plenty of salt, and we are able to look at taking some more on from our order at this point because we do have room in there for some more. So.
Okay, thank you. Chief, anything you wish to share with the group?
No, we've been fairly slow. The cold weather's keeping all the criminals inside. But we are providing a nice warm place for a few criminals. So that's been a good thing. Our detectives unit's been really busy. You may or may not have seen that we did finally make an arrest in our nail bandit case and also our tip jar thief, which led to several other crimes. So that was good work on our team's part as well. We have interviews tomorrow. We have Police Fire Commission at 7 p.m. tomorrow to interview 2 candidates that we're bringing forward. And if they get approved, then they'll meet with me on Wednesday, and we'll hopefully extend conditionals to them. And we continue with our recruitment process for our records specialist position. So we're working well to get that done. Other than that, I have a whole plethora of stuff, but yeah, in the interest of time, this will give you enough to find tonight.
All right, any questions for Jesse or the chief or Amber? Amber, you had
I have a couple other things, yeah, quick updates. Back in January, the board approved waiving of late fees on utility bills through March 31st. Just want to let everyone know that we did send that into the PSC for approval and got writing from them that choice to waive fees was approved by the PSC. So we got that. And then I did finally have a chance, I don't know why I waited till the coldest day of the year, but I did walk behind Waste Management, our garbage truck today, with Waste Management's general manager. For a while, we drove for a while, we walked for a while. There's definitely nothing leaking at this point. I was able to talk to the driver. It appears that all of the hydraulic issues that he was aware of have been fixed. He is aware when when he really fills up the hydraulic fluid and the truck gets really warm, he is aware of one spot where it kind of bubbles out. So he's now aware of that. There's not really anything they can do, but he's just not keeping it extremely full. You know, he's learning to keep that hydraulic level just slightly lower so it doesn't kind of boil over. So that was good news. And I think the final portions of the Waste Management merger are supposed to happen by next month. And then after that, they're able to move forward with kind of some new capital purchases. So he did confirm with me that we are top of the list for getting a brand new truck. And he does hope to get at least a couple trucks yet this year. So we are, you know, at the top of that list to get a new truck when available. But I guess good news is every other community they have had their truck break down in the cold today, and our truck made it through. So I don't know. Maybe there's something to be said for the old truck we have.
Okay.
But
Lisa, do you agree?
Yeah, I just have one question. Jesse, you mentioned that the new director of Park and Rec will be on leave for a couple of months this summer,
Family leave? Mhm.
and then you'll be taking her
As of
spot?
right now, that is our initial first blush plan where I would be acting as Park and Rec Director. Now, I want to caution the board, that is our initial plan.
Yeah.
As we get
enough.
into the planning and I get a better understanding of staff's comfort with that, as far as how much can I lean on them is really what it's going to amount to. And that is going to flesh itself out over the next couple of weeks here as we have more of these meetings and get a better understanding of whose roles are going to be taken on. We do have some backup plans we've bantied about and kind of back of the napkin notes, if you will. But for right now, that is our initial plan. So.
I think it's proactive. You're being proactive on this, and that's a great thing. And I'm sure you'll find a great mix of
Thank you.
assistance to get through the summer.
Thank you.
Yes. So following up on Trustee Harvick's question. So if you're going to dedicate X amount of hours to Park and Rec, will that affect your job here at the Village Hall?
I put in the hours I need to put in, sir. All due respect. I'm the administrator. I have to do everything I can to make the operation go. So as far as my availability here in Village Hall, I am always available by cell phone or email or text message. And I will basically juggle it as best that I can to ensure that the operation is as smooth as it can be, considering we would be temporarily shorthanded with at the department head level.
And this wouldn't be the first time, you know, we've had to make do without a department head. You know, I mean, Amber wasn't always here. So, I mean, this is just things that we need to do.
Mhm.
Other questions? All right, let's move on to item 8, licenses. We have 2 individuals and their places of employment are listed. Entertain a motion for approval.
I make the motion for approval. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Item 9, entertain a motion for the approval of village expenditures, $1,035,915.81.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion is second, a lot of back and forth today. I saw in emails. Nice job in that. Any final questions for Jesse and the bills?
Yes. So the question I asked you, Jesse, about previous Administrator Hoffman, how long are we paying this? I mean, how much bank time or whatever, previous to the new setup, the
Sure.
new PTO setup? You
I
said there was a vacation, sick, whatever.
Correct. Back
So-
when state legislation changed, and collective bargaining agreements went away for the vast majority of folks. The village made a decision under their personnel, the creation of a personnel manual, to change from having a bank of vacation time and sick time and combining that into paid time off. So I kind of lightheartedly joke with employees, I don't care if you're going to the dentist's office or to Disney World, it's PTO. And so one that was intended, because it's much easier to track. It is one use, it is the employees to use, it is paid time leave. And so there's no, outside of having to justify family medical leave, it is what it is as far as taking time off of work. So at that time, there were some well-tenured employees that had a significant bank of sick, that the option was put out there to be able to basically hold, for the village to hold that time. And then upon retirement or leaving employment, the employee could make a claim against that bank of time, that value of that bank of time, which is frozen, and to be applied towards insurance premiums. The employee needs to submit proof of what that reimbursement request is, so that we have document for our auditors, and then that reimbursement is paid until that fund, that bank of funds is exhausted. I did not pull the specific balance that Mr. Hoffland had accumulated, and I did not see the specific payment made, basically doing the math as far as how long it would last. I did not do that. But it only lasts as long as the employee who left service with the village has funds available in that bank of time that was frozen at that time. That is not a benefit for new employees, only those that were hired prior to that time.
But I did ask you, when did it end? So I don't.
When they
know why you-
exhaust, and
It doesn't matter, I mean, it's up to.
Well, how much is in there?
It doesn't matter because it's how fast it's being withdrawn.
and it had been
It could go
sitting,
forever if he doesn't use it.
That's a great
Yeah.
sweetheart deal.
Well, no, you have to understand, it's his money. He contributed, it is his sick time, it's not, this is money that he decided to bank with the village for future expenses. This is not the village paying out a perk.
He could have used that, he had the option to convert, to keep it as PTO and use it or lose it before retirement. Or he could have converted it to a sick bank, and that option is one that was taken by Daryl as well as a few other employees I know of.
correct. I believe previous Public Works Superintendent Gary Helm is under that arrangement. And I thought there was another,
Doesn't she let have some?
I believe so. So yes, there are a handful of employees who were under the old system that were able to participate in that arrangement that was vetted by the finance committee and approved by the village board at the time of that transition and established. And so the program is only good for the time, in essence, for the amount of funds that a person has. Now, if they claim them, it'll run out sooner. If they don't lay claim or make a claim against them, it will sit there.
They're using $2015.
Yes, correct,
2021 cost.
correct,
So it's a pretty good deal for the
correct.
village.
Yes, that value was set in stone and frozen at that 2015 value. It did not increase with time. It was frozen at that.
And the total that any employee has may differ because
True.
it's based upon what you had accumulated. And not everyone accumulates sick time to the same
True.
maximum allowable.
Very true.
So it's, you can't say how long it's gonna happen, because it really depends on how fast or how much they use it.
Correct. Up until very recently, Mr. Hoffman had not made a claim against it. So it actually sat out there for the better part of 4 or 5 years, not being touched. And just recently did he start making claims towards it as he retired.
Okay, other questions on the bills? Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item 10, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Stay warm, everyone.